I didn't expect it, but when I got the bill from the HOA, my blood boiled. They were trying to charge me $47,000 for delinquent landscaping fees for flowers they planted on my grandfather's land while I was burying him. Can you imagine that? Flowers on land that's been in my family for decades. I had to drive back to Texas expecting to find 40 acres of empty cattle pasture, but what I found was, well, let's just say I was not ready for this. There was a sign now, a shiny new sign, Meadowbrook Estates, a gated community. The metallic clang of that security gate slamming shut behind some SUV made my blood boil even more. They'd built 145 houses, a clubhouse, tennis courts, all of it right over my grandfather's old barn foundation. And there she was, Cordelia Blackstone, the HOA president, click-clacking over in stilettos, waving papers that smelled like expensive lawyer ink. She looked at me, smiled, and said, "Mr. Thornfield, you owe us money for community improvements on your property." Yeah, community improvements over my dead grandfather's land. The taste of rage hit me like I'd swallowed a mouthful of acid. She was trying to charge me, for stealing my own land. I should have known. Someone who'd lived 30 years as a land surveyor, dealing with fraud and theft and all kinds of scheming folks, shouldn't have been surprised by this. But Cordelia, oh, she made the rookie mistake. She thought she was dealing with a dumb, old man who didn't know anything about property law. Well, you picked the wrong fight, Cordelia. Let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Rex Thornfield, and 3 months ago, I was living a quiet retirement in Colorado. My biggest problem was figuring out whether I wanted to plant tomatoes or peppers in my garden. Then, out of nowhere, my grandfather, Ezra Thornfield, passed away at the age of 94. Now, Ezra, he was a stubborn old man. Lived through it all. Owned 40 acres of prime Texas real estate since 1967, sitting right between growing suburbs and conservation land. Developers circled like vultures for decades, offering him millions. His answer was always the same: they can have this land when they pry the deed from my cold, dead hands. Apparently, they didn't wait that long. I inherited the property, along with his cattle operation and, well, his legendary disdain for anyone who wore a suit to work. The plan was simple: sell the cattle, build a modest cabin, and spend my golden years fishing in the creek where I caught my first bass when I was 7 years old. 30 years as a land surveyor meant I knew that property like the back of my hand. I could recite the boundary lines, easements, and every inch of that land from memory. It was mine. I was set. But while I was arranging Ezra's funeral, someone was getting busy down in Texas. That's when I got the first clue that something was wrong. In my mailbox, there was a bill for $47,000. Landscaping fees, pool maintenance, tennis court resurfacing, clubhouse utilities, fees for stuff I'd never seen, for amenities I'd never agreed to. It was an itemized list that made my head spin. The worst part? The bill claimed I owned Lot 47 of Meadowbrook Estates and owed 18 months of delinquent HOA dues, going all the way back to when Ezra was still alive. At the bottom, in bold red letters, lien will be placed on property if not paid within 30 days. You can't file a lien on someone's property unless the debt is legitimate. But here's a little fact. Filing false liens is federal fraud, and the penalty is a good 5 years in prison. I read that and felt my blood start to boil again. Before I could process it, my phone rang. It was Cordelia. Her voice was all sugar, but I could feel the razor blade underneath. She told me I owed money, that I owned Lot 47 in Meadowbrook Estates, and that my grandfather had agreed to the subdivision before he passed. I hung up the phone and packed my bags. It was time to go back to Texas. When I got there, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I wasn't ready for Cordelia Blackstone. This woman had stepped out of some luxury real estate magazine. Perfectly coiffed blonde hair, makeup like it was applied with military precision, and a smile that could make a predator jealous. She drove a white Mercedes SUV with custom HOA plates. And let me tell you, this wasn't just some HOA president. Cordelia was the HOA. She ran that place. Her family owned the city council, had their hands in every development deal around. She collected power like it was going out of style. The first time we met, I was standing in what used to be my grandfather's front pasture, looking at a community pool built right over Thunder's old grazing spot. I knew what was coming when I saw that white Mercedes screeching up to the gravel. The crunch of her stilettos on the ground felt like gunshots in the silence. She got out of the car, expensive leather, expensive perfume, then told me I was trespassing on private community property. I held up Ezra's deed from 1967, the one with his signature, all rough and yellowed with age. She waved it away like it was nothing. "That's very old paperwork, sweetie," she said, tossing it aside like a napkin. "Your grandfather was very cooperative during our planning process." She pulled out some official documents, HOA covenants, subdivision plats, and showed me my grandfather's signature, which was, get this, perfect. Too perfect. See, Ezra had arthritis. His handwriting had been shaky for the last 5 years before he died. Those signatures? They looked like they were written by someone with steady hands, someone 20 years younger. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. They weren't just overreaching. They'd forged my grandfather's signature, stolen the land, and built a whole damn neighborhood on it. The next day, the legal war began. Cordelia filed an official lien. It came with a thick packet of lawyer threats. She had money behind this, real money, but she didn't know what she was up against. I'd spent 30 years catching people who did exactly what she was doing. I knew property law like the back of my hand, and I had the resources to fight back. Cordelia's next move? She filed a fake lawsuit against me, claiming I was a deadbeat who wouldn't pay up. She even managed to get the local news to run a story painting me as the villain. But I wasn't just any guy. I'd spent decades documenting property fraud for prosecutors. I knew how to play this game, and I wasn't going to let her steamroll me. I got the FBI involved. I had the evidence, every forged signature, every false document, every Shady City official connected to Cordelia. She was messing with the wrong guy. And that's when the tide started to turn. As Cordelia's empire of lies started to unravel, I realized something. This wasn't just about me. It was about stopping a serial thief who had been preying on vulnerable people for years. People like Margaret Indigo, an elderly woman who had lost her land under similar circumstances. I was in this fight now for more than just my family's land. I was in it for all the other victims she'd taken advantage of. And then came the federal indictment. Every piece of evidence I gathered, every document, every phone call, every fake review was enough to bring Cordelia's entire operation down. One by one, her allies fell. City council members, judges, police officers. Cordelia had manipulated them all, and now they were facing justice. As for her, well, she wasn't getting away this time. Not from me. Cordelia Blackstone thought she could steal from a land surveyor, but she didn't know who she was dealing with. She thought she could buy off everyone, play her games, and intimidate me into submission. But in the end, it was her own desperation that did her in. The FBI had enough on her to lock her up for the rest of her life. And me? Well, I got my land back. I bought the remaining lots from the people who had been duped, helped them keep their homes, and turn my grandfather's land into something meaningful. It's a wildlife preserve now, with a community garden where the neighbors grow their tomatoes and peppers. It's a small victory, but it's mine. And if Grandpa could see it, I think he'd smile, nod, and say, "That's my boy." What's the lesson here? Sometimes, the best revenge isn't fighting back immediately. Sometimes, it's just letting your enemies keep going, thinking they've won, until they've dug themselves a hole so deep that nothing can save them. Cordelia learned that the hard way. And as for me, well, I've got a good legal team, and I'm just getting started. You can't steal land from someone who knows how to fight back. And trust me, there are always people like me who are willing to stand up for what's right. If you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, drop a comment. I want to hear your story. Let's make sure this never happens again.